Okay, should be good. I've got the text showing what I need. And the okay, should be good. Browser here. Hi guys. Text showing. Taking me a minute to get set up. Is sound okay? Okay, now 5 by 5. Should be good. Okay, browser here. Hi guys. I'm smoking. Text showing. Taking me a minute to get set up. Is sound okay? Okay, now 5 by 5. Should be good. Okay, browser here. Hi guys. I'm smoking. Text showing. Okay, cool. I gotta turn on some lights. Sound okay? Okay, now 5 by 5. Should be good. Okay, browser here. Hi guys. I'm smoking. Text showing. Okay, cool. I gotta turn on some lights. Sound okay? Okay, now 5 by 5. Should be good. Okay, browser here. Hi guys. I'm smoking. Text showing. Okay, cool. I gotta turn on some lights. Sound okay? Okay, now 5 by 5. Should be good. Okay, browser here. Hi guys. I'm smoking. Sound? Looping again. Just a second. Sound 5 by 5 now? Okay. It was the YouTube business. Cool. Hello everyone. I don't have the website going. I'll have to check it and see how many people are showing up and that kind of stuff. The reason I'm doing this is because I've been seriously assaulted in the last 2 days. A number of enemies here. Turns out that the CCP, the Communist Party of China, knows who I am, and they're really pissed at me. And my mail server's been continuously attacked for like 2 or 3 days. I started putting up various blocks. Some of their crackers got around it. They started using basically ID spoofing and using my server to try and spam other people to get it turned off, to get the DNS turned off by the legitimate websites. So I had interactions with server guys, you know, that are bandwidth people and all of that kind of stuff to keep the DNS stuff up and running, and was able to do that. But yeah, I'm staying safe. I hope everybody stays safe. I'll go through that in a minute. So Communist Party of China is pissed at me. And now Twitter's banned me, or put me in jail. That's what they did. They say, you know, you can't do anything. We don't like your tweet where you say vitamin C can help prevent the CCP virus. So I moved over to Gab, and I'm going to set up on Gab. And get that going again in a serious way. Twitter is indeed, I think, paid by the CCP. There's a big article. I don't have a link to it now, but I'll put it. It's on my Gab account, I think, which is the same at clif_high as on Twitter. And it talks about how CCP has got a giant Twitter propaganda machine. And I've been attacked by bots on Twitter for, well, about the last month or so. And I just took a bold stance and just started blocking everybody because I don't have the time for that. And so I'll explain some of this, why I don't have the time business. So my wife has a compromised immune system. That means we're paranoid as fuck about this bioweapon. And that means that I'm the only one that leaves the property now. She's been in isolation here for like 6 weeks. And it means that doing even the simplest of chores, like going to pick up her medicines and to go pick up food, is incredibly complex. Amount of gear I have to pack with me and the procedures I have to use. So I go to our little now ghost town, the big city around here, and it's good for me. I'm a paranoid and I don't see people, but boy, it was bad for me as a paranoid because everybody else there is just like seriously worried. All these kids, all of the workers at the various food stores and all of that business. And the paranoia in their faces, it's like I'm used to being the one who's paranoid, and they should be all right, you know. Anyway, though, so I go there. In order to do shopping, I got to put the mask on, I put the gloves on, and I wear clothing that when I get back home, I know that I can take off before I go into the house, so that none of this clothing goes into the house, right? And so I go into the store, I get the items we need, I'm wearing gloves, and today, or yesterday, the checkers for the first time were wearing gloves, and some of the people in the store were wearing masks, and there was maybe only 12 people shopping. And so that was good. We could keep huge social distance, and they've got everything marked off for all the checkers to try and keep the checkers safe. And I was talking to these people I know, and they're doing okay. They're really weirded out though, and they were complimenting me on being a month earlier than anybody else with masks and all of this kind of stuff, right? And so I'm talking to Bonnie, the woman there, and her husband's been laid off from a local giant subdivision rental area near me, and he's been told he may not have a job until December. That it's that tough. They've canceled all the nightly rentals around here. Our real estate market is just collapsing, and it's kind of a problem all the way around. But anyway, I continue my story. I get my goods, put them into my cart, go out to my car. That's when the real effort begins, because the inside of my car is a greener zone, okay? So I try and keep the inside of the car disinfected. So I have a bin, one of these plastic bin things, that has been disinfected before it's put in the car, before I leave. And it's been wiped out on the inside. And I put all of my goods I open up my car with my gloves, but before I do that, I disinfect the gloves. And then I disinfect the door handle on the car and pull it open. Then I disinfect the top of the container, take it off. Then I put all of my stuff in the container with it still in the car, making sure none of the sacks touch anything else in the car other than the bin. Then I put the top of the bin back on and disinfect the top of it, disinfect my gloves again because they've just handled those sacks, disinfect the door, shut the door, and that part is done. And my car is still a green zone, but it's got a hot zone inside that bin. And this is how you have to think about it if you've got somebody that you're living with that has a compromised immune system. Because believe me, guys, if my wife gets this, she will die. So we can't fuck around with it. And so this is why I've been paranoid since early December when I first broached it to her and told her what we were going to have to go through. Okay, so I go and do this chore. I go to the bank. I need to get some cash. I put it into a Ziploc. I seal the Ziploc. It's all swished off with the disinfectant stuff, and it's going to be allowed to sit in the sun with the money exposed in the Ziploc for about 6 days. And I keep turning the bag and shaking it up so they're all fully exposed. Then we go through another procedure before I take any of that cash and do anything with it. If, on the other hand, I'm going to use it right away and I'm still in town, I take it out of the bag with the gloves and disinfect the gloves and all of this after handling the money. So then all of this stuff is accomplished, 45 minutes, and I drive back, and I get back to my property. The first thing I do when I get back on my property is, let me see if I've got some of that here. I've got some sitting here. Where did I put it? I've got some 2 and 5% sodium hypochlorite solution. Yeah, hang on a second. Here it is. So this is the disinfectant that you use, sodium hypochlorite. This is the 5% solution, and you dilute this down, and that's your disinfectant, right? And the ozone generator isn't going to do it, because listen what I do. So I pull into my property just far enough to get my car off of the road, and then I start disinfecting the wheels, so that I'm not bringing anything in that way. Now, the wheels are the only thing that have touched the ground. Presumably, they're okay. There's the sunlight, UV, and all of that, but I'm not taking any chances. Once I get in on the colloidal silver won't do it, guys. Colloidal silver doesn't work in the body. It gets captured by your own membranes and can't attack the virus anywhere else. So I do the wheels, pull a little bit further into the property, and then once I'm on the property, I open up the door, disinfecting the handle from the outside, open up the door, disinfect the bottom of my shoes, and then I can step out on the property. And then, depending on what I've got in the vehicle, I go through several more disinfection procedures before I stand out in my driveway, strip down, put all of my clothes into a bag, wipe my hands and stuff all over with the disinfectant, and then take it in and goes right into the washer into sanitize mode with OxyClean, an hour and 26 minutes. And so far, we've been good, okay? And this is, find some damn wood to knock on and all of that business, because we cannot afford to take chances because A, we're in a prime risk group of being old farts, and then my wife has a compromised immune system. And so that's basically where I end up with just the procedures to get in and out. So it used to take me 45 minutes each way to get into the big city, and which is an area of maybe 2,000 people, single store, two tiny hardware stores, and that's about it. It took me 45 minutes each way, and then however long I was there. Now, I have to add about 45 minutes to the whole process of getting there, because of the stuff has to be disinfected and everything before I put it into the vehicle. And then on the backside, it might be an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, because everything that as it comes out, all of the stuff that as it comes out of that bin has to go through a disinfectant procedure, depending on what it is, the kind of stuff around it, and all this sort of thing. And it's like, well, pain in the ass, but so far she's been good. Now, what's really shocking for us is that we know somebody, my wife and I know somebody that has died. Okay, and he's 60, he's younger than me, 6 years younger than me, he's 61. Lived in California, and he's died of massive pneumonia. And it was a situation of where he had no underlying, and as far as anybody knew, had no underlying health issues. He was a surfer, known him for about, maybe 18 years. Had done some business with him in the past. Computer guy, software engineer. And I was just told this I didn't know that anything was wrong with him. I just found out about this. And I was just told that he had a regular day. He had maybe had a cough. My informant, the person that told me about the death of my friend, said that he had maybe had a cough, but she wasn't really sure, that he seemed quite healthy. And 2 days before he went to the hospital, he went on his usual run in the morning. Things were just starting to get goofy in California in terms of lockdown and so on. He came back, and she apparently lives close enough to him that she was able to observe this. And she said the last time she saw him, he was being hauled out in an ambulance, and then she got word that he'd passed, that he'd barely gotten to the hospital, and he died, and it was pneumonia. So it's getting close to home here. And he, like I say, he was fit. He's a surfer, and that takes a lot of cardio to go out there, and especially at age 61. He was lean too. But he never supplemented. I know this as the case. The only vitamin he ever really got was some vitamin D exposure. He always wore a wetsuit. There is that aspect of it, but there's also this other aspect of it. And that is that at age 61, he was working, up until they shut everything down, as a social worker. And so his job was to go and see all of these individuals that had to have services distributed by the state of California. And so I think he was a subcontractor. He wasn't a state employee. Anyway, though, so that's where my informant figures that he got his repeated exposure, because he was sort of worried about that. He'd been wearing a mask maybe 2 weeks after I started doing it, and had been worried about this. So this is something that's really weird about this disease, and that it's not a disease, it's a bioweapon. And the doctors fail to realize this. Repeated exposure, or the more you are exposed, the harder it hits you. And that's really because it builds up this massive viral load that you cannot overcome, that there's just no way your system is ever going to be able to fight off on its own. And that's a function of how it was designed. So we've got several all caps trolls out there, probably Chinese, probably CCP. No, I'm not optimistic about the chloroquinone. There's no actual evidence. The guy who proffered that is just he's a patent machine. He keeps cranking out articles and patents and tries to get at least 150 to 200 peer-reviewed articles per year. He's friends with politically with all of the with a lot of the editors of the journals, which is why his shit gets in there. And there's no actual evidence that it aids. That it helps, okay, and even if it is does do some component to this, the people that are getting it in the hospital are getting all kinds of other therapies, and when all is said and done, yeah, they've been pronounced virus free from the blood test and the RNA blood test, which are not that reliable, and from throat swabs, but then some of them are getting it again. And we've now had an instance where a woman got it the third time. Let me see, where was she? Can't remember. I've read too much. She got this thing for the third time, and she perished. And so they know that the second time she had it, she came to the hospital and said, well, I had it once, about a month ago, a mild case, and went and saw my local healthcare guy, and he gave her some kind of cough syrup or whatever it was, the treatment. And then she was fine for some period of time, a couple of weeks, had it again, went into the hospital, was officially diagnosed with it then, went through some form of regimen of treatment and came out and was, a survivor and cured or whatever, and then got it again. And this is a woman that is in the West, not in China. We've had repeated instances of people getting it in China, a lot of them. And this has been showing up not just on the deep web, but all over the internet. They get these instances where indeed there are those cases. And it's terrible, actually. It's really, and see now the second wave, okay, so the second wave of phase 1, which is what we're in now, is starting. The second wave is where it's going to just go through the military-aged men and women, all right, are healthy young adults. Also, all the unhealthy young adults are just going to get floored with this. I don't know, maybe I've corresponded with 48 or 50 people who have experienced it to some degree. The reason they're corresponding with me, of course, is they're self-selecting because they heard about the chaga and the vitamin C and they were asking for more information, and they were kind enough to provide me with, their own case notes and so on as they went through it. And so in that sense, I've got, some body of individuals that anecdotally have had success with vitamin C and the chaga and a bunch of other stuff. So we've got people in Africa that can't get chaga. We've got people in South America that don't get chaga. And so in South America, they're using chuchuasi or pau d'arco or cat's claw or any number of other antivirals along with vitamin C. So they're also having success that way. But it's now really spreading through South America where reporting on illnesses does not exist the way it does up here. Anyway, so, I know people in, the guy in Switzerland who's making the little gelatin vitamin C shots for the kids, he had it, and he got really serious, okay? He's a big guy, Germanic origin, ancestry, and he was taking 14 grams of liposomal vitamin C a day and 5 grams of L-ascorbic and cherry-ashiola powder in hot water a day for the 3 days that he had it. He had no chaga, and he just bombed the hell out of it with vitamin C. He had no vitamin D. He ordered that, but he went through the 3 days before it got to him because he ordered it on like a Thursday and it came in on Monday, but he was sick over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And he said besides doing the vitamin C, the only thing he did was what he called cold hot therapy, where he would go out and strip down. He lives up in the hills in Switzerland, and he would strip down out in the sun. And he said, so it was cold at the time, lower 40s Fahrenheit, And so he said his skin got quite cold, but he would forced himself to sit out there half an hour at a time to absorb the sunshine. And so he did this repeatedly through the day. He said he had fevers. He tried to coordinate the go outside stuff with the fevers, but one time he almost passed out because of, I think it was his blood pressure. But so anyway, though, he's doing well now. He's doing so well that he's had no symptoms, no weakness or anything. He was able to get Cistus incanus tea, which is an herbal antiviral, from wild source stuff out of Sardinia, which is the most potent, as opposed to the German cultivated version of it. And then he got extract of Usnea, and ultimately was able to get elderberry. And I forget what they call it over there, like sambucol or something. And once he started in on those, all of his lung issues cleared right up. And he said he was just sucking down the Usnea because it tasted to him like buttered toast. And it was the first time he could taste anything after his 3 days of this experience. And the Usnea, I know from my own experience, is a very, very, very powerful, although gentle, expectorant. And so he said he was coughing up stuff since the 1960s. So I don't think he's actually that old. But anyway, so, but that was just funny. Yeah, he's saying, oh, I'm coughing up stuff in here that's been in there since 1960. And anyway, so he's a fun guy. He's, he's doing fine now. And now he buys into the idea that this thing is indeed a bioweapon. He says in his personal experience, and this is what you hear a lot of these guys say, it is unlike any virus they've ever had. Whether they're a healthcare worker trying to treat someone with it or somebody who gets it, the people that get it say that they're just, it is like walking along and being hit in the back of the head by a brick. It hits you that fast and you just don't really have much time to respond to it. That it just kind of like grabs you, and once it's got you, and see, there's the thing. By the time you have symptoms, I think this is probably true of everyone, that it is asymptomatic for a long time unless you're so weak that it only takes a little tiny bit of it to overcome you. I think that if you're a robust, healthy doctor who does not practice paraimmunity, which I'll get into in a second, then the more you experience those little tiny loads daily, it'll build up in you until it has sufficient mass and you're down. And that's what happened to the doctors here in Washington State. That is what is happening to the doctors here now, all across the U.S. We're starting to, shove tubes down the throat of doctors because they collapse while treating patients. And it's because, in my opinion, they're not treating it as a bioweapon. They're treating it as a disease. And in a disease, all viruses we know of that have ever beset humans on this planet prior to this CCP virus, the COVID-19, prior to that, no virus was ever able to throw a higher viral load test in your throat than in your blood when you were infected. Okay, so get the concept here. If I get regular coronavirus and I get the flu, they can swab my throat and they can say you got the flu. But if they were to check my blood at that point, they would find that whatever the viral load is from their measurement in my throat, it's 100 times, 1,000 times, 5,000 times, 10,000 times higher in my body because the thing's infecting me. And the fact that it's in my throat and I'm throwing it out is sort of like an afterthought of the reproduction process of the virus to try and to extend its life and, find another victim, right? And so this engineered virus, this bioweapon, is 100% not like that. What it does is it builds up massive amounts in the throat when there's hardly any detectable inside the body, when you're totally asymptomatic, when you don't show any symptoms at all. And so by the time you do show symptoms, it has had the time to totally assault your body. And that's why you go down so hard, so fast. And one of the sneaky things about it is that it fucks over your blood pressure. And people are reporting eye problems, sort of strobing effects with it. Well, that's the blood pressure in the brain being impacted. And people are reporting swelling, but it's not really swelling the way they describe it, but swelling and pain in the neck. And that's because the lymph glands are not able to deal with the massive amount of virus in them. And not only does the lymph gland swell up, but the tubes in the lymph system connecting lymph gland to lymph gland to lymph gland also swell up. And that's where the incredible pain is, because they pressure the muscles, especially in the neck and the glands around the throat. And if you don't have tonsils, if you've had your tonsils taken out, it's even worse. If you've had your appendix taken out, it's even worse, because the tonsils are the first part of your body's defense, and the appendix is the part of the system that the thymus uses to pump out enhanced T cells that know the parameters of the thing they're trying to kill. And so any of these conditions can make you more vulnerable. It's bad. I mean, it's an excellent designed killing machine. It's an excellent designed weapon. And as long as the doctors fail to see that, they will always react to it as though it's a disease. So they'll think, oh, I'll get a little tickle, my body will fight it off, and I'm good. And I'll have the antibodies because I'm a healthy doctor and I know what I'm doing. And it doesn't work that way. They get a little tickle, it's affected them, it's right there. And then more pile in, and more pile in, and more pile in, and they're unaware of it, because the virus isn't going to make more tickle. Once it's established itself like that, it has a secondary operation, which is to build up this massive load so that you're spewing like mad before you drop over, and then it's going to make you drop over and die. And it's because we don't get immunity. So there won't be herd immunity to this. It'll just be rolling waves around the planet, killing the dumb fucks that don't realize they've got to go to para-immunity in order to combat this. And here is a brief, crude description of para-immunity. All dogs and cats that don't have underlying skin or systemic issues are immune to this bioweapon. They're immune to this bioweapon because they make as much vitamin C as the environment demands of their bodies. And if a dog gets sick, he'll frequently want to go and lie in the sun and bake out. And you think, boy, poor dog, you're going to fry your brain lying in the sun that long. But what they're doing is loading up on the sun, because the sun causes these clear hairs in their flesh to create vitamin C. And so any virus that's attacking them has to go down through the fur, and the closer it gets to the skin, the more vitamin C it encounters. And vitamin C is an interesting kind of a thing, because all viruses have these little mechanisms, we can call them spirochetes, whatever, that attach and try and infiltrate in the intercellular membrane between two cells. And then they get in there and they hijack the protease out of a cell and replicate. Well, when you got vitamin C in your body, the virus comes along like that, and zap, it actually gets an electron donated to it by the vitamin C. And two major things occur. The little mechanism is fried. It's zapped with a charge it can't deal with, and it literally destroys that little virus's ability to get into any other cell, because that spirochete thing is dead with this electron donation. Plus, vitamin C, once it donates that first electron, isn't vitamin C anymore. It becomes a number of other signaling chemicals to the body, and those activate other vitamin C in that proximity to start shedding electrons like mad. So any virus around that one also gets zapped. And it's just this process that your body uses. That occurs in the dog's fur. As bacteria as bacteria, virus, or amoebas get on dogs, this process occurs, and those critters are vulnerable to it. Things like parasitic algae, no, parasitic algae does not give a rat's ass about getting an electron donated to it. And so it can get on a dog and cause dog skin problems, because there's no parasympathetic immunity to the parasitic algae. Okay, so the viruses, when they get to a point, they will literally start sucking down the vitamin C out of your body as your body's natural defense mechanism tries to fight back against them by donating electrons. And so the thing about para-immunity is you must constantly have a load of vitamin C equal to or greater than the assaults on the system. This is okay for doggies, this is okay for cats, horses, cows, any of these other kind of critters, because they make vitamin C in the hairs, and as more and more hairs are triggered by attacks, they make more and more vitamin C. And it'll force the animal to have different behavior to increase the vitamin C even, and this is called para-immunity, and vets know about this, and they've known about this fucking forever. Doctors are stupid fucks, or doctors are not, they're taught two things. They're taught anything we don't teach you is not worth knowing. And then they're taught a limited subset about how the body actually works. That is mechanistic, not systemic. And it's a different strategy, okay? So doctors are succumbing because they don't recognize this is not a disease. In my opinion, as long as they keep treating it as a disease, we will not defeat this. Some of us will survive and do well in run around with bulldozers and pick up all the bodies and stuff just to clean the place up. But if we recognize this as a bioweapon, look what happens. Doctors would, before they go into work, they would be sucking down vitamin C. Every hour that they're in work, someone would come on in and give them a syringe full of vitamin C in liquid, along with vitamin D and E and everything else that they might need, right? And off they go. And they would just maintain that load. They would always have vitamin C to repel the virus, and nothing would happen to them. They'd get exhausted, and they'd still be able to support the effort and so on. When you get exhausted, your body increases the cortisol, it raises the stress level, reduces the amount of vitamin C you have available. See, it's all systemic. It's all got it. So the more they're working, the more they're weakening themselves against this, unless they're actively compensating with the vitamins to replace what's being outed as a part of fighting it and the stress of the battle against it. So, so they need to think like an MMA fighter, right? Like somebody who's fought and knows he's got to go through at least, say, 4 3-minute rounds. And if you don't understand how long 3 minutes is, if you put it on a clock, it's not the same as when you're out there exerting yourself at 80 to 90 to 110% of your effort for 3 minutes. And that's what these doctors have to do. They'll find that they've been trained to stand it and take it, but unfortunately, they were never trained how to build their bodies up to harden against it and this kind of thing. And that's why I am pounding on these stupid protocols that the doctors won't even examine vitamin C. It's safe. No one's ever died from taking vitamins. People have died from fake vitamins, crap from China that had pollutants and heavy metals in it. But regular vitamins that are well made, or natural, no one's ever died from any of that. You can take massive amounts of vitamin C. I think now I'm up to 10 grams a day. I want to see how many I can take and what happens. I've got tons of the stuff here, and I'm going to start making more liposomal. Bear in mind, I've been preparing for this shit since September. I knew something was going to go down, right? Let's see, J. Rocco. All right, hang on a second. Let me do some housekeeping here. Apparently, let's make Jean-Claude there. Oh, I can't do it here. Damn it. Sorry, guys. Got to do it down here. A little confused. I've heard about structured silver. There's issues with all of this. Silver is basically a poison. And, okay, hang on a second. Let's see. There we go. Okay, so I made him a moderator. People are starting to get all upset about crap, so let me throw in some other people that are moderators here now. I don't really care what people say about me. I don't care. It's a issue of the CCP though. They're paying people now to come and beat me up, and yeah, chaga has oxalate, but that's bullshit about it causing kidney problems unless you've already had kidney stones building up. So unless you're already in the process there, I've been taking massive amounts of vitamin C and massive amounts of there you go, Cliff, you're also on massive amounts of chaga. See, I was really worried about the gut cancer because they kept showing cancer cells in these damn tests. I really investigated the test and found out how bogus they were and how many errors that could get in it, but I still didn't want to just leave it because the test was bogus. So I bombed myself with enough chaga. At one point I was taking 14 grams of chaga, reishi, and cordyceps in a day, and that was like 1 gram of cordyceps, 1 gram of reishi, and 12 grams of chaga. And I did that for, I don't know, maybe 20 days out of a month. Next time I had the test, they didn't find any cancer cells. So I was like, oh, okay, this process works. And it's a gut cancer. I don't know if it works on other cancers, but I'm pretty sure it does. So I was satisfied. I was satisfied that, and I've had no kidney problems whatsoever. And I used to smoke. I smoked cigarettes for 17 years. Schizotypicals and schizophrenics self-medicate with tobacco because it allows us to kind of navigate the mental problems. I quit, long time ago, maybe in the 80s. It was 83, maybe? Something like that. I quit smoking. But in any event, so supposedly you've got a higher risk of kidney cancer if you're a smoker, and that higher risk is later if you're an adult male. And so, I've had no problems with kidneys. And in fact, with the chaga, I've got, I could actually probably piss up a rope. so it's really good stuff. Anyway, so hopefully that's enough mods and I can get on with shit now. Okay, so I've got chaga is ground as a fine powder, so I drink it as coffee. I've got chaga as extracts, dual extracts, a little alcohol, a little water. I take that now at this moment, especially dealing with the virus. So before I go into town, before I do all of that kind of crap, I make myself a cup of coffee. I sterilize the cup. I put a top on it. But inside that coffee, I put 2 mils of chaga extract, dual chaga extract from Nature Realm. It's made out of Alaska chaga. Or I will use 2 mils of dual extract from this guy out in North Carolina, or another guy I know whom used to be my only source for the dual extract, who makes it in Montana. I don't know where his birch forest is, but it's reasonably close to him. He's 40 or 50 minutes away from the nearest fast food, and it takes him like 3 hours to drive up to, and then another hour to hike into this forest. So it's some considerable distance from him, but close enough that he does it a couple of times a year. And he was just a hobby specimen gatherer, herbalist kind of fellow that I knew, and he just produced it. So I used that for a long time, but now I've gotten into the commercial ones because he's only doing it for friends because of demand. Locals that need it. Anyway, so where was I? Yeah, so I use chaga in all different kinds of forms. I don't cook with carbs, but I'll sometimes sprinkle chaga on a particular piece of meat before grilling, that kind of thing. It tastes good. So it's probably a waste of the chaga because it probably burns out all of the good stuff. But it tastes good on that kind of thing. People put it into fried chicken batter, all different kinds of things to get other people to eat it and find it palatable. There's no damage to it. Chaga is interesting because it's a polyform mushroom, doesn't have gills, and it has these dense tubular mechanisms in which are all these beta glucans, and within all of these fibers are all of the good stuff you want, and it takes your stomach acid or alcohol or really hot water to get it out. No, guy, I don't want to be president. Sorry, too much fucking work and it's all political, and I'm not a political bastard, so I'm making you a moderator. Don't say that again. And I'm not a vegan guy. I'm not a vegan at all. Yeah, okay, yeah, put me in prison. I'll take it over. So anyway, that's where we're at. We've been going here for 41. I just wanted to go into what's going on to all of this kind of shit here. The CCP is apparently really pissed at me. So it's not just buttheads like Corey Good and James, I Smoke Ass-Ended Masters, Gillian, east of the mountains here. Also, it has me wondering from a recent video that James had posted. I can't stand to listen to either of these guys, but I saw that the video had existed. And I'm wondering if Corey Good's been trapped in our state by the by the shelter-in-place orders and stuff here. Because it seems he's staying over there with James. And I don't know what it is. Yeah, he's an asshole. Oops, hang on, guy. So anyway, crap. I don't do the chat, so I've screwed it up. Anyway, guys, so I'm gonna go and get back to doing stuff here. I'm cleaning all my guns and stuff, and putting all the bows together, and getting the broadhead sharpened and that sort of thing. Not that I suspect they're going to open up hunting season. They shut down. V Gates doing fine. Danke. They shut down the fishing, which really irritated me. I figured, hey, it's not so bad. No matter what happens, I can go down to the beach and fish. And it's like, well, they shut off the beach, and so it's like, okay, it's a pain in the ass. I can go around their barriers, but I can still get down to the beach and fish. And then they came along and said, no, you can't fish. It's like I say, as long as we think of this thing as a disease, we're going to do silly issues like that. They're talking now about a half-hour test for the COVID. I don't think it's the RNA. I don't think it's a blood test. I think they're talking about some kind of a throat swab or a nasal swab or something you can do at home. That kind of a test, though, you can actually do tests that can detect, if they wanted to engineer it, they could do a test that could detect vitamin C levels that are active in your body. And this test would only take maybe about 2 minutes or so, and probably could be done in one of those little light mechanisms where they shine light through the finger and do analyses. I saw a guy that was in Japan was working on one of these to do vitamin assays. And he'd contacted me years ago, like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, about some advice on trying to do this on in Android. And I was explaining some of my frustrations with Android. Not being able to get at the hardware to make things happen because they'd hardened the Android operating system, which it's a variant of Linux, but quite variant. And so I didn't have much to offer him in terms of what he wanted to do, but I know he was working on it. And his approach was quite sound. He was a medical student, figured to make $1 bazillion with a thing where you could probably scan. That was his idea, was to scan with the camera. With a strong light on it, and be able to assay to some degree of accuracy how healthy you were relative to specific vitamins. And his approach was decent, I thought. Anyway, I've never seen the app develop, so maybe there was no economic incentive. Who knows what happened? But it could be done. And then you could just test people so that New Hampshire has set up a border station between them and New York, and presumably to keep infected people from New York from exiting or transiting through New Hampshire or settling there. And they could easily set up a test that says, oh, well, geez, you got 35.xxx milligrams per kilogram of vitamin C circulating. You're good. Get the hell out of here. You can go through. We don't care. You're healthy. And then somebody whose vitamin C is real low, they say, no, you're a risk. You're likely to get this. Go back, take vitamin C. When it measures this level, we'll let you through because then you're safe. And as long as you maintain the vitamin C, that's the big issue. It's not a one-time deal, guys. So every time, okay, so here's the premise. The premise is that sun disease here, COVID, CCP virus, is a bioweapon. The premise is that the bioweapon is not going to go away. It's going to persist out in the environment through various different mechanisms. And as such, you may be encountering this thing years from now. Even Fucky on the head of, I don't know, whatever he is, Fucky, the little short guy who works with Trump, even he says it's going to be seasonal and we'll be dealing with it for years. Well, we're going to continue to deal with it because it's a designed and engineered virus, and that's what it's supposed to do. But if you have the vitamin C and you maintain it, doesn't matter how long it's out in the environment, the results of it attacking you will always be the same. It will be defeated. You will go on. So it's an issue of having to maintain para-immunity because we don't make it naturally. This is why I say it is important that we not only get para-immunity, but that we continue on to find a thing that we can make that will attack the virus in the environment. And there's all different ways to attack viruses, in the air, on surfaces that are chemical. But I'm thinking maybe we need to look for something else approach to getting at this. And I'm also of the opinion that it'll probably arise from one of the plant repositories that is in the Amazon. Some plant down there has an oil or, some little thing out of the bottom of a leaf or something on it, chemical-wise, that we can use, we can replicate and synthesize and basically let loose into our environment, and it would kill the virus on the surface. So we could just make shit with the thing with that chemical in it and sort of para-immunity all of our environment that way. And that the virus at that point becomes moot. We don't care if it's out in the dirt or not, because if it tries to get at us, it doesn't. So that's kind of the approach on this, that because it's out there, you need to maintain the vitamin C constantly. You got to get your para-immunity constantly. The reason I chose to combine chaga with vitamin C is because chaga is an immune system modulator, and it prevents if it's in your system and it's available in terms of the triterpenes are not locked up and battling some other issues, then the triterpenes in the various acids and other components of the mushroom will come on in and regulate your immune system such that you don't get the cytokine storms, right? It's not that it's impossible, but it would take a huge degradation, a giant decrease in your ability to, from some kind of shock, in order for the immune system to be overwhelmed if you have chaga in it. And that's one of the features that chaga provides, is this immunoregulatory component. And if you go and research this, academics don't know why it works. They got tons of evidence that they can reliably induce immunoregulation and these kind of things using chaga repeatedly under any circumstances they care to test-wise to devise. It always works as an immunoregulator, no matter how degraded that person's immune system is, no matter how pumped up it might be with tweaker kind of chemicals, that kind of thing, because that really hits the thymus and the immune system really hard, and then it crashes and you've got no immunity to anything and you die. But no matter what, chaga regulates it, evens it out, modulates it, and so on. In all of the literature, all of the studies, chaga is the most studied medicinal extruding compound on the planet, I believe. It's certainly the most studied of all of the mushrooms, and it's the most studied of all of the antiviral green-leafed herbs, just because there's tens of thousands of studies that have been done on chaga and its constituents. And they don't know how it does a lot of things, but they recognize that it does do this, and you'll see frequently in the conclusions, in spite of inadequate understanding of the actual mechanism involved, it was demonstrated that evidentiary support that blah, 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 it did indeed do it. And so I chose to just bomb the fuck out of this bioweapon. Okay, vitamin C is likely good enough if you've got sufficient amounts in you. But why should I, since I like chaga, I was using it for the anti-cancer, why should I restrict my weapons at all? And that's not how I fight. I fight dirty and hard to win. And so I decided, okay, I'll take the vitamin C and I'll build up my system like the Chinese Navy's doing. And then I'm going to also have circulating in me the mushroom, whose Chinese name is Supreme Antiviral Mushroom, also known as longevity mushroom in a number of different languages. And so it was like, that was the way I was going to go with it. And it's worked. Okay, guys, I got to go. There's people here. This is, I thought maybe they were going to show up, and I guess they are. So we'll see how it goes. Corey Good can go fuck himself. He's not actually sued me. They didn't file it. It's a piece of shit document. The attorney, she probably graduated at the lower end of her class. She can't think clearly. The case has been filed, but it's not been presented to a judge to get a docket number. So it's not been accepted by the legal system. So they couldn't serve anybody if they tried. You got to get a judge to order subpoenas and service, and there has been none. And also, I don't have any interest in anything in Colorado, so they can't do fuck to me unless they do it in Washington State. Corey's over here now. If he wants to file in Washington State, he can duplicate that and present it to any county in this state, and I'll be happy to accept service if he can get a Washington State judge to say that such service is warranted. In other words, that he had a legit case. It's not even frivolous. I wouldn't even bother to print it out. So, as I say, Corey Good can go fuck himself. Oh, and David Wilcock probably too. And certainly James Gillian. You did not repel me. I did not go to your ranch. You're a lying sack of shit, James. Bye, guys. Hope it was fun for you.